the summer, LeBron James said he could medal in an Olympic sport like high jump or long jump. He also said he would only need a few months of training to get to that Olympic level in track and field. Now, LeBron James is one of the greatest athletes of our generation, but it is just ridiculous to think that a 260-pound man could compete with any of the top high jumpers. However, this interview did raise a very interesting question, and that is which NBA players would make the best track and field athletes, and could they break any world records? And make sure you like this video because we are going to be covering every event from the 100 meter to all the field events. Let's start with the events LeBron thinks he can do, which is the jumps. Now, NBA players are well known for their jumping abilities, but they might not translate to high jump or long jump as well as you might think. And that is because most NBA players are 2-foot jumpers, and 2-foot jumping ability is simply not going to help you in a high jump or a long jump. So players like Anthony Edwards and Morant are not going to be making this list as they are 2-foot jumpers. So let's see which NBA players would excel in these jumping events. First on our list is Michael Jordan, as I think he would make an incredible high jumper and long jumper. Now, MJ has crazy 1-foot bounce and he has a pretty lean frame to go on top of that. But I think the true X factor here is Michael Jordan's spatial awareness, as high jumpers need to have elite spatial awareness so they don't hit the bar while they're in the air. Jordan is also really fast, and that is very important because top speed is very crucial when it comes to the long jump. So yeah, MJ would make a great jumper, and he would be the best if it weren't for this dunk contest champion right here. Zach LaVine has the picture perfect body type for being an Olympic jumper, and he also has some of the craziest 1-foot bounce I've ever seen. I mean, just look at this jump right here. He literally did a between the legs dunk from the free throw line. That is something Michael Jordan cannot say he did. So yeah, Zach LaVine has the body type, the athleticism, and the flexibility of an elite level high jumper, and if Zach chose track and field over basketball, then he might have gone 7'10" or possibly even challenged the world record of 8 feet. That is a big if though, as Sotomayor's high jump record has stood for over 30 years. Let's move on to the most powerful event in track, the throws. Now, being an Olympic thrower requires an incredible amount of strength and power. You also have to have very long arms and be super tall. These requirements are perfect for the big men in the NBA. For example, I think Zion Williamson and Giannis would make great shot put and discus throwers. Miami Heat LeBron has to be in this conversation as well because he was the perfect balance between strength, size, and athleticism. However, when it comes to the throwing events, there is only one right answer here, because prime Shaquille O'Neal would absolutely dominate every throwing event. With his 7'7" wingspan and his 330-pound frame, Shaq is pretty much a lock to break the world record in at least one of the throwing events. And that would obviously only happen if Shaq trained for shot put and discus his whole life. None of these NBA players would even touch the top track athletes without years of event-specific training and preparation. With that being said, let's move on to the most popular event, the sprints. Sprinting requires crazy top-end speed and a super fast reaction time, and the ideal body type for a sprinter falls somewhere in between the body types of jumpers and throwers. Sprinters also tend to be taller and weigh around 180 to 200 pounds. With that being said, let's see who some of the fastest guys in the NBA are. Coming in at number 5, we have Derrick Rose, who was one of the most explosive players ever during his prime. D Rose's top-end speed was about 20 miles an hour, and he also claims to have ran a 4.18 40-yard dash. Coming in at number 4, we have a young LeBron James during his first tenure with Cleveland. I think young LeBron could make a great sprinter as he is super tall with really long strides, and he was still pretty lean back then as well. And this is why young LeBron's top speed clocked in at just over 20 miles an hour. Moving on to the third fastest NBA player, we have Allen Iverson. I'm not surprised by this one at all, as he was one of the quickest and shiftiest NBA players of the 2000s. AI had a top speed of about 21 miles an hour. Now, the last two NBA players are both tied at 22 miles an hour, those players being Russell Westbrook and De'Aaron Fox. However, I would give the slight edge to Russell Westbrook as I just think he's faster and more explosive. Now, the question is, could any of these 5 players challenge the great Usain Bolt in the 100-meter dash? And the answer is, hell no they couldn't, and this isn't even a debate, because Usain Bolt's top speed was 28 miles an hour. He makes these NBA players look like little kids when it comes to sprinting. Usain Bolt was born to be the greatest sprinter in human history. All the other great Olympic sprinters haven't even come close to him either. His 100 and 200 meter records are gonna be safe for a while. Now that we know which NBA players would be the best sprinters, jumpers, and throwers, we now have 2 more events to uncover. So let's move on to the distance events, where we're going to be specifically looking at the 800 meter to the 3200 meter. Now, these are the events I think the NBA players would be the best at, because pretty much all high-level basketball requires an insane amount of conditioning and endurance. However, similar to the throwing events, there is an NBA player who is miles ahead of everybody else, because the NBA player with the most endurance of all time is easily Wilt Chamberlain. Now, Wilt Chamberlain does have a slight advantage here because he did compete in track and field at the collegiate level, and he was a dominant athlete to say the least. Wilt was an All-American high jumper, long jumper, thrower, and distance runner. Wilt was a once-in-a-generation type athlete, and that's why he holds the NBA record for most minutes played in a season. Wilt played every single minute of every single game while also being dominant on the offensive and defensive side of the court. It also takes crazy endurance to do what he did 20,000 times. If you know, you know. So yeah, that's why Wilt Chamberlain would be a dominant distance athlete if he ran today. Let's move on to our last event, the absolute hardest event in track and field, also known as the decathlon. The decathlon is basically one athlete competing in every single track event all at once. In this video, I showed you the very specific body types that each track event requires. For example, jumpers need to be tall and skinny, whereas throwers need to be bulky and strong. And the decathlon takes all those standards and throws them out the window. You need to be one of the most versatile athletes in the world if you even hope to finish a decathlon. So who are the most versatile athletes in NBA history? I think the top 3 options would have to be Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, and of course Wilt Chamberlain. Russell Westbrook would definitely have the advantage when it comes to the sprinting events, and he would have the advantage in the more niche events like pole vault. However, LeBron would dominate Wilt and Westbrook when it comes to the throwing events, and he honestly wouldn't be too far behind Westbrook in the sprinting events either. And we definitely can't forget about Wilt Chamberlain because he is a proven multi-event track athlete, and he would easily win all of the distance events. That's why I think the winner of the decathlon would come down to the jumping events, and after carefully considering the abilities of these 3 athletes, I think we finally have a winner. In third place, I have Russell Westbrook. Russ would make a great decathlete, but he has to compete with 2 generational athletes, and that's why I have him at the number 3 spot. Now, moving on to LeBron versus Wilt, this was a very tough decision, but once again, I think it comes down to the jumping events, and I think LeBron would have a slight edge over Chamberlain when it comes to high jump and long jump. So LeBron James is the winner and holds the title for the most versatile athlete. I guess LeBron might have been right in his interview after all. Let me know in the comments if you guys agree or disagree with my rankings, and let me know what NBA players you think would make the best track athletes. I look forward to reading and responding to all of your guys' comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe because I am trying to make track and field the most popular sport in the world.